that we've got to talk about and that we've got to learn about from one another. When I was in college, I actually worked for a summer at ACA's drop-in center as a youth camp counselor. And so, just over there, now the Pier Door Restaurant, but formerly ACA's Community Drop-In Center, and just remember just all of the joy that was there, and then also remember, just absorbing a lot of the stories and the history that was surrounding us. And then I also remember, fond memories of when a number of us started the Detroit Asian Youth Project back in 2004. And our very first meetings were actually in the On Leong building at Castle Peterborough. And so knowing that there's so much that has happened on this block, in this area of the city that is so rich with history for Detroit's Chinese American community. And we've got to recognize it. We've got to make sure that it doesn't get erased, as Jasmine mentioned. And we've got to find ways to lift up its history. With all of the changes happening in Detroit and in this area in particular, I think it's more important now than ever to make sure that we're listening to the descendants of Detroit's Chinatown, as well as to the Asian American community that is here in Detroit, still to find ways to preserve the history before it is too late. Seeing the demolition on Saturday was devastating for many of us, but I really believe that the city and Olympia have an opportunity, if they choose to take it, to work hand in hand with the Asian American community, with the descendants of Detroit's Chinatown, to actually celebrate history and to recognize the importance of the community. I want to thank Councilmember Gabriela Santiago Romero, because it's not easy sometimes to take a stand for what you believe is right. So thank you for always doing that. There's an ongoing debate in our country right now, and Richard sort of alluded to this. There's an ongoing debate in our country right now about what kind of history to teach. We've been watching the news, of course, with Florida, and across our whole country around what is the history that we teach our children. And obviously a lot of that conversation is centered around what do we teach in our classrooms. But we know that we also learn our history from our families and from the community and on our streets and our neighborhoods. And so I guess I really want to pose the question today is, what kind of history are we going to be teaching, and what kind of history are we going to be celebrating? I think that it's absolutely critically clear to me and so many of my colleagues in the legislature that we actually need to move forward on teaching Asian American history, Black history, Latino, Indigenous, Arab, and Chaldean history in our classroom. But that also really speaks to the need for us as community members to teach one another about the vibrant histories that we have here in the city of Detroit and here across Michigan. I feel a sense of optimism about our future. I feel a sense of optimism just seeing the folks who are here today, hearing stories from Carolyn and from James and from Curtis Chin, who's now in LA, and others who have strong roots here in Detroit. And there are so many possibilities for what could happen here. Whether it's an outdoor art exhibit or some type of community center or something that just recognizes how important Detroit's Chinatown history is, I really urge Olympia and the city and everyone who has a stake here to really listen and do that historical review and make sure that we are not leaving people behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'd like to hear from Hai Oshigan of the Immigration Task Force, Detroit Immigration Task Force.
Thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Hai Oshigan. I am the co-chair of the Detroit City Council's Immigration Task Force. The task force is made up of community organizations, over 25 of them from across the city, representing Latino, Arab, Yemeni, Chaldean, Bengali, Afro-Caribbean, West African communities, and I'm here to say that this issue is not just the issue of the Chinese American community, it's the issue of all immigrant communities. In fact, it should be the issue of all Detroiters as well, not just any one group. I mean, we work with the mayor on a number of issues like Detroit ID, for example, and language access, and we were shocked to see how fast this thing went through. There was no reason to fast track this. But within a week of the issue coming up, there was every reason, in fact, given the City Council's unanimous vote to wait and talk through this thing, to wait actually and consult with the community. It's unfortunate, it's disappointing, you know, arrogance is not a good trait in politics. Neither is greed, neither is cynicism, and all three were at play here, unfortunately, at the expense of part of the history of this city. But I do want to look. We all want to look to the future and move forward on this. And in that light, you know, I think we don't just want a marker here. You know, I mean, you know what they call a place of markers for what used to be alive? They call it a cemetery. And you look around here, there's an empty, unmarked grave there, a plot there, and now there's a plot added to that as well. What should happen here is that this should become really a vibrant center of the community. This should be called Chinatown. This should be a place where we celebrate the contribution of the Chinese American community to the building of the city, as well as the contribution of all immigrants to making our city a great place to live. We are all gratified to see you all here, because the only way this will happen is if we all work together to hold the city and the elites accountable for the future of our city. And I hope you keep covering this story. I hope you make it a story, and we can work together to make all of this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ike. Next, I call on Reverend Rowe and Art Park from Central United Methodist Church. Thank you.
Thank you. We Asians feel like we are unwanted. We have difficulty forgetting that our government in 1882 passed the China Exclusion Act to exclude Chinese from immigrating to this country. We remember that law or similar acts against Chinese and other Asians in one form or another that lasted 83 years. Ironically, the building we are honoring and mourning today, that building that became the Chinese Merchants Association building, was built in 1883, just 1 year after that China Exclusion Act became law. So that when we experience marginalization, we take note and sometimes we get angry. The thing about angry is it can turn to hate. But this is not the time for anger or hate. There is a darkness around us, perhaps many types of darkness. The one I'm speaking of, the darkness caused by the lack of communication. It is essentially the darkness of ignorance. Reverend King told us that we need love to drive out the darkness of hate and the darkness of ignorance. That applies to the darkness caused by the lack of communication. My name is Arthur Kyung J. Park. I'm chair of the Committee of Peace and Justice at Central United Methodist Church. Central has a long history of supporting Asian communities, particularly the Chinese community, where we had a Chinese church embedded in our congregation for many decades in the first half of the century, the last century. We also worked with Chinese Americans after the release from concentration camps and with the Hmong after the Vietnamese War. The funeral for Vincent Chin was held in our sanctuary because the Chin family were members of our Chinese church. So we Centralites are here today to both honor the memory and to join the mourning for one of the last vestiges of the Chinese presence in the city of Detroit. The destruction of an old building brings with it the sadness, even anger. Just like the passing of a friend, we mourn the life and memories it once gave us. We mourn the loss of the possibilities of creating more memories with those we love and future generations. For those we haven't shared those present moments or memories, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Empathy seems to be very scarce these days. So it is understandable how and why this demolition occurred. Even against the advice of the City Council, we still experience that profound loss. It's natural. Many might say, why make a fuss over an old crumbling building? The fuss is not so much over a building, but over the spiritual loss of a once alive and vibrant community. Our feelings of loss is not unlike that which the African American brothers and sisters felt when Black Bottom and Paradise Valley, the Detroit's cultural and musical hub, were urbanized. Today, that community is rightfully and thankfully experiencing a rebirth. As a judge of her, I wait in anticipation. Will there be a rebirth for the spirit of the Chinese American community? Is there a place in the Asian American community in Detroit? Earlier, I said empathy seems to be very scarce these days. Last evening, I went to pick up dinner at a popular restaurant. I found a parking space in front of the restaurant facing people waiting to eat. In front of me sat a man. He had a t-shirt. It read, "I am not saying I hate you, but I would unplug my life support to charge my phone." Is empathy dead? Sympathy dying in this country? Are we Asian Americans simply trying to hold on to our life support? We think Detroit is better than that. We don't think Detroit would unplug our life support just to change our phone. Please include us in the discussion about the future of this property so that our Asian American community can move forward with a sense of pride and increased cooperation and understanding. We need to improve the empathy component of this world. We all share. I'm reminded of Harriet Tubman. Well, why would I be reminded of Harriet Tubman? Because Harriet Tubman was more than just the symbol for the Underground Railroad. She was a symbol for the equality of humanity. And all of us who yearn to be free, yearn to be accepted and respected, and yearn to be heard.
My name is Ed Rowe. I am the pastor emeritus at Central United Methodist Church, and this is Reverend Paul Perez, who is the current pastor of Central United Methodist Church. And I'm here to simply say that wherever the Asian community decides to take this conversation, I am appalled by the fact that we don't know how to listen. That the appeal of the community, not just the Asian American community, not just the Chinese community, but communities that have been made invisible, are not being heard. And how fast we are to destroy, how fast we are to tear things down. This is an opportunity, I pray, to figure out how to build things up, how to understand that this is Detroit history that we're tearing down, not just Asian American history. And a building that has been here since 1883, we couldn't wait 2 or 3 months to have that conversation with this symbol in front of us. What is the matter with our hearing? Let those who have ears to hear, hear. Let's hope that we can get some ears cleaned out. That the city council isn't enough, that the church isn't enough. We housed the Chinese community for years, and we will be here with the Asian American community for as long as it takes. You can count on us to not only be there for the Asian American community, but to be there for justice. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Reverend Rowe. I am Reverend Paul Perez, lead minister at Central United Methodist Church. First, I want to honor the anger and grief of the Chinese and Asian American community. I want to also honor your courage and strength and persistence and tenacity. As Reverend Rowe said, Central United Methodist Church housed a Chinese-speaking congregation for many years in the early 20th century, a place that both preserved and celebrated Chinese language and culture. Central United Methodist Church has stood at the corner of Woodward and Adams since the late 1800s. We're the old kids on the block, like your community. The city of Detroit is changing. There's massive redevelopment ahead for us here on the corridor and in downtown. Part of our faith tradition is a commitment to being good neighbors. Our commitment is to be good neighbors with all of our neighbors, communities, with the city, with Olympia, and other developers. Our commitment is to be in direct communication, to be honest, to share where we stand and how we feel. My hope is that as we move through this process in the city of Detroit, all of us might be good neighbors, that there might be respect, that there might be communication, that there might be honor for the history and the heritage of communities that exist in this city. And there might be a common dream, a shared vision, not for just an entertainment district, but truly a community and a neighborhood where people, all Detroiters, can live and work and play together. May we be a place of good neighbors.
Thank you, Reverend Perez and Reverend Rowe. This just brings back so many memories because I was an altar boy in the 1960s with the Chinese Community Church and Central United Methodist Church. So thank you very much. Next, I'd like to recognize Roy Friege. You're up next.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you to everybody for inviting the Cultural Exchange Network to join you. As Roland said, I am Roy Frage, and I am Roy Frage, and I am the Director of Community Engagement for the Cultural Exchange Network. I want to say that we at the Cultural Exchange Network believe that there is a inherent beauty and just a richness in every culture in Southeast Michigan, and that's what makes our pluralistic society so wonderful. We believe that historical sites, such as the one that was just torn down, should be recognized and preserved as a way of honoring our diverse communities and their histories. So why not have a conversation between interested parties on how best to proceed with Detroit's historic Chinatown? So personally, when I go to places like Seattle, Chicago, New York, I look forward to visiting their Chinatowns. It's an added value for me, and I'm sure for many of you. So smart minds coming together may end up in a win-win for everybody, and who knows, maybe it will encourage tourism in the city of Detroit. What I do know from my experience is that partnership and communication can lead to great things if given a chance. Thank you again.
Thank you, Roy. Next, I'd like to hear from Anthony Lee of 20 Asian American Artists. Let's hear for his vision.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony, also known as Tony Lee. I'm a local Detroit muralist, illustrator, curator. I used to run a gallery in Detroit called Hidden Gate, and I represent a group of 20 plus Asian American artists. Been in the city for like 13 years. Do a lot of work for Detroit Public Schools, Murals in the Market, and just running a gallery, doing a lot of murals in the city. I transform communities and spaces. No, I transform spaces and bring people together through art. And you'd be surprised just how a little bit of color and intention and care can bring people together. And I think that's the opportunity we have here too. When I came here 13 years ago to the city to go to school, I came here looking for answers, coming to Chinatown. And I know more young kids will come here as well. So this is an opportunity that we can bring kids here and allow people to, inform kids about the history here, but we could have workshops and bring kids through art, if we had a community center or art galleries, people could have workshops and classes to learn Chinese history, spread art in general, just empower youth in general and tell them about, in general, the history around here. And yeah, I just think this is a great opportunity to bring people together in some kind of way. So I hope we seize that.
Thank you, Anthony. Next, I'd like to hear from Councilwoman Gabriela Santiago Romero. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. There really isn't much more than I can say that hasn't already been said, but I do want to share that I'm an immigrant. I deeply understand the importance of knowing our history so that we don't repeat the wrongs of our past. And quite frankly, I did not expect the administration in Olympia to play hardball with history. I expected us to slow down a little, to have a conversation, to ensure that we have our Asian American leadership and community at front and center while we decide what is next. We understand that if this is dangerous, it has to go down. I get that. I chair dangerous buildings. I constantly hold our residents accountable to ensuring that their missing roofs and their broken windows are boarded up. Moving forward, we need to ensure Illegis and any other development company down here is protecting their properties. For myself, this is an unfortunate event that happens, but I am so grateful and feel hopeful that our Asian American community is willing to and wants to continue a conversation so that we can commemorate this space. And I know that I'm dedicated and committed to ensuring that we do designate Chinatown as historic. It is not yet, and we need to. It is a must. We have to do that moving forward, and we can do that. So my hope is that we continue to be able to work together, that we continue to uplift the history, and that the Illegis and the administration do reach out their hand, do work together with us, and that we do take this as an opportunity to be able to build the future that we all want and that we all need. Thank you all so much for coming together so quickly, for uplifting your stories, and for ensuring that we make this into a positive, that we get something out of this, because we deserve so much more than just demolishing our history and leaving a plaque here as a remembrance. We need to continue to really uplift communities and engage with them. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all so much for putting this together. We will continue to fight to make this right, and I look forward to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. With that, I'd like to let everyone have their say if they wish to talk about visioning for the community and how perhaps this parcel can be put to better use. Any thoughts on that? Okay. With that, I'd like to have you meet the people in the press and maybe have your comments, logged in, because I think it's important to have that community conversation as to what is going to happen with 3143 Cass. And we will be in touch with all of you, I think, to be part of that process of conversation with the developers in the city. And we should look forward to that conversation. So thank you very much for coming. And oh, well, that's a good point. Any questions? Oh, okay. Okay. Any other questions to pose? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And oh, sure.
And as Asian media and Dragon Eagle TV, API News Network, and from a Chinese community, and I'm really looking forward to this history to be maintained. It's very important. I want to thank you for Senator Chen, for the councilwoman, for Roland Wong, stand up for our community. I just want to say thank you very much. And we want the history maintained. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming. And have a good morning and afternoon. So, thank you very much.
Can I have my microphone? But are you done with
that.
I haven't turned it off yet.
Yeah, you turn off. How much? I think my storage is low. I just worried my internet.
Which button is it that you hit to stop?